Hi, my name is Rachel Paxton, and today I'm going to show you how to can strawberry rhubarb jam. In this class you'll learn how to make and can strawberry rhubarb jam. I'll lead you through the process step by step. I'll give you the recipe and the canning supply list you can download and print out for future reference. You'll find those in your course materials. You'll also gain the confidence you need to try more canning recipes on your own. My name is Rachel Paxton. I'm a freelance writer and mom of 5 children, ages 28 to 6. This is me and my husband Dave. We've been married for 20 years, and these are 3 of our children. Zachary and Christian are twins. They're 11, and Trenton is 6. We also have 28 and 26-year-old daughters. I've been canning for more than 20 years, and I'm the owner of the website, creativehomemaking.com. For this recipe, you're going to need 2 cups of strawberries, 2 cups of chopped rhubarb, 5 cups of sugar, and 4½ tablespoons of powdered pectin. For this recipe, you can use fresh or frozen strawberries and rhubarb. I ended up having to use frozen this time because that's all I had, but you can use fresh or frozen. You also need a boiling water canner, a canning rack if you're using your own stock pot to can, a jar lifter, a wide mouth funnel, and 3 pint or 6 half-pint canning jars. This is what a boiling water canner looks like. If you don't already have one, they cost about $30. You can get one on Amazon. There's links in the supply list that are in your course materials. If you haven't bought anything yet for canning, you might consider getting a pressure canner instead if you're going to can vegetables and meats also. A pressure canner can do boiling water and pressure canning, and a boiling water canner can only do boiling water canning. So if you're going to can a lot of different things, you might want to consider getting a pressure canner instead. But if you're just going to can jams and fruits, then the boiling water canner is fine. This is what a canning rack looks like. Your boiling water canner comes with a canning rack, but if you're going to use a stock pot for canning, you can do that if you have something like this in the bottom of the pot so that the jars do not sit directly on the bottom of the pot. You can order these for about $10. You also need a jar lifter. This is what a wide mouth funnel looks like. They sit in the top of your canning jar so you can ladle food in there without spilling. First you want to fill your canner about 3/4 of the way full with water. The jam doesn't take very long to make, so you want to get that started. You also want to sterilize your jars, rings, and lids in the dishwasher. If you don't have a dishwasher, you can boil them in a pot on the stove to sterilize them, but I like to do it in the dishwasher. It's a lot easier, and just leave them in there till you're ready to use them. You can reuse jars and rings, but you cannot reuse lids. You need to use a new lid every time. Here is the strawberries and rhubarb. You don't have to cut them in real small pieces because we're going to mash them up here in a little bit, but I cut up the rhubarb pretty small and I left the strawberries whole, but you can cut them up if you want to. It's important when you're making jam to have exact measurements. If you have too much fruit or too much sugar or too much pectin or not enough pectin, then your jam's not going to gel and turn out right. So make sure you follow the directions exactly. You want to place your strawberries and rhubarb in the stock pot. You're not going to need any extra liquid. The fruit will have its own liquid in it. I gently mashed my fruit with a potato masher, and that distributes the fruit more equally in the pan and gets rid of some of the larger chunks. You want to bring the strawberries and rhubarb to a boil that cannot be stirred down. What that means is when it's boiling, if you stir it, if it stops boiling, then you need to keep boiling it until when you stir it, it doesn't stop boiling when you're stirring it. So that's what that means. At that point, you want to add the powdered pectin. You can buy pectin in different forms. There's powdered pectin and liquid pectin. You can use either one, but the recipe can change a little bit depending on which one you're using. So for this recipe, use the powdered pectin. I buy powdered pectin in a jar like this. You can buy it in small boxes for single batches, but I like to buy these bigger bottles. It's a little bit less expensive, and then you just measure how much you need out of it. So turn up the heat a little bit and get it to boiling again. After it starts boiling, you want to add the sugar all at one time. The reason it's suggested to add the sugar all at one time is it's really easy to miscount how much sugar you've put in if you're counting it cup by cup, and that can mess your jam up if you don't have the correct amount of sugar in it. So have your sugar measured ahead of time and just put it in all at once. You want to bring it to a boil again and boil it for 1 minute. After the minute has passed, you're probably going to see some foam on the top of the jam. Just take a metal spoon and skim that off the top and ladle your jam into your sterilized jars, leaving a 1/4 inch headspace. The headspace is the amount of space between the top of the jam and the top of the jar. It's important to have the correct amount of headspace when you're canning, because when you process your jars in the canner, the food will expand in the jars, and if it doesn't have enough room to expand in the jar, your jar can explode. That's more crucial with pressure canning, but it's important with boiling water canning too, so just make sure to follow your recipe. Next, you want to wipe the rims of the jars with a damp towel or paper towel and make sure that there's no food left on the jar, or else the jar won't seal. And place the lids and rings on the jars, just finger tight. You want to use your jar lifter to put the jars in the pan. Make sure your water is 1 inch above the jars, and add more water if you need to, and bring it to a boil. And when it starts boiling, you want to time it for 10 minutes. This is for elevations 1,000 feet and below. If you live above 1,000 feet in elevation, you'll need to process for longer. So there's an altitude adjustment chart in your course materials, so you can check that if you need to adjust your processing time. When the jam is done, you want to use your jar lifter to take your jars out and set them on a towel on the kitchen counter to cool. When the jars seal, you should hear a pinging noise. If a jar doesn't seal, you can still eat the jam. Just put it in the refrigerator, and it'll be good for a couple of months in the refrigerator. But your sealed jars can be stored in a cool, dark area for 1 to 2 years or more. You can tell if a jar is sealed or not by pressing your finger in the middle of it. And if the jar goes down or the lid goes down and up again, it's not sealed. It should be flat. And the strawberry rhubarb jam is really good. It's just a variation of strawberry jam. I've been making this variation the last couple of years, and my family really likes it. It has just a slight taste of rhubarb without being really sour or anything. It's kind of like eating a strawberry rhubarb pie. So it's really good. So if you haven't tried it before, give it a try. And I hope you enjoy this recipe, and I hope to see you again soon.